It's starting things off to set the tone as we start here at 197. That's Luke Geog.
Luke Geog, 22nd in the nation at the 197-pound weight class. He'll take on Gabe Sollars, the redshirt freshman. So two redshirt freshmen going at it at the Cavelli Center. Geog 11-6. Sollars 18-10, and he gets the first takedown. 3 points this year as the NCAA rules changed. Used to be 2 points for a takedown, now it's 3. And with a 3-point takedown, it kind of changes the way matchups are scored, and some of them get out of hand a lot quicker than they used to.
Well, you see a lot of first period technical falls or mid-second period technical falls that used to take you into the third or even as time expired in the third period. So it has definitely changed kind of the landscape of college wrestling. I think we want to wait a little bit longer before we make any proclamations whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it certainly is an interesting thing.
And an escape for Luke Geog. When you look at this matchup, you talked about how Luke Geog should be the guy that Ohio State starts off with, but Sollars, an experienced wrestler, 28 bouts this season. He's been able to get a couple major decisions, 11 pins on the year. So Sollars, he's a challenging opponent for Luke Geog.
Oh, yeah, he's second in the nation in falls. He knows how to get on top and do some damage. And here's Geog now in on a shot. Sollars was able to score off of Geog's shot to start the match. So it's going to be interesting to see moving forward what, if anything, Geog did differently for his offense. What he did not do is shy away from it. Get right back on the attack and turn it into a 3-point takedown.
That's Luke Geog, 11-6, 1 major decision, 6 tech falls. And Luke Geog against Rutgers had a 4-3 decision win, an upset over number 12 John Bouzakis from Rutgers. Now we're tied at 4-all, but with Geog coming off a big win, upsetting number 12 in the nation, you have to think for a redshirt freshman, that's going to help with some momentum. As you talked about earlier, the Big Ten championships are coming up in just a few weeks at the Xfinity Center in Maryland.
Well, that's what everybody in the Big Ten points their season toward, the Big Ten tournament. To place there, to be all Big Ten, and put yourself in a good position. It's Geog in on another shot here to be well seated at the national tournament, because that can mean as much as anything in terms of your path to reaching the podium as an All-American.
This Indiana team, they have the candy stripes on the back of their singlets. Nice little touch to the crimson.
It's going to be tough for Geog to score here with that arm locked up now by Sollars, and you're going to get the stalemate.
With 47 seconds to go, 7 seconds of riding time for Luke Geog.
Still plenty of time here in the first period. Geog seemed to get off bottom pretty easily as they had a restart in the center. But as this match goes along, as we get into the second and third period, something to watch for Sollars. Very, very tough on top for a big man, likes to ride legs. And that's something, if you can get those double boots in, can really punish. So for Geog, if you can get a lead going into the second period, and he's, again, had that arm tied up, it's going to be tough here to score in that waterfall position. If you can avoid going underneath the guy who's second in the nation in pins, and if he can get those boots in, is going to punish you, you do that. And the way you do that is have a lead so you don't need that escape point from the bottom.
Sollars, last time up, he defeated number 29, Kale Whistler of Michigan State in an 8-5 decision. Both guys coming off of decision wins. Both were on the road as well, and that's going to end the first period 4-4. What's your takeaways from the 3-minute first period?
Well, all the shots belong to Geog. Sollars did not really have an offensive attempt, but was able to turn away the first shot from Geog and turn it into points of his own. Looks like he'll take bottom to begin the second period. And again, for Ohio State here, Geog has always been very comfortable on his feet, a high rate of attack. You just have to be judicious and make sure that you're attacking at the right spot with the proper setups.
As a former wrestling coach, when making the decision of going on the top or bottom, did you have one you decided to choose more than another as an advantage?
Well, the most typical choice is going to be to go bottom, to get that escape point and to rack up points as the match goes along, and also to show that opponent that they can't hold you down. But it all depends, and Geog got a finger in the eye there. It looks like it depends so much on who the opponent is, right? If it's, you look down to that corner for Ohio State, if it's a guy like a Logan C. And any of those coaches down there in the state of Ohio were known as being extraordinarily tough on top in different ways. with Jay Jaggers, cradles from anywhere. Boy, that's a great shot from Geog from space. He's got his ankle tied up. He's got to free that to try and score here. With Logan Stieber, the armbar series. And with Bo Jordan, just the strength and everything that he could do. He could turn you in myriad different ways. There's the takedown awarded, but it all comes down to who are you going underneath, right? Are you confident you can get out? But there's also a mental angle to that. Even if the guy's tough, I want to show him that he's not as tough as me. So more often than not, and I'm going to say 89% of the time, you're going to see whoever's choice it is choose bottom.
7-5 with the takedown with 1 minute and 2 seconds to go.
Now, Mitch Clark would have something to say about that. Mitch Clark of Take Top Camp fame. Great Ohio State Buckeye.
It was senior day here. A couple student managers were honored. Sammy Sasso was honored. He got a standing ovation. He's one of the best in the world when he was wrestling, unavailable for this season. It's a shame to see no Sasso because think about how good this Ohio State team is, but if they had Sasso wrestling for them, they'd be even better.
Well, I mean, listen, this Ohio State team has been resilient all season long when it comes to injuries. There are a lot of names that were starters in this lineup who aren't there. You mentioned Sasso. He was, obviously the thing that has kept him off the mat happened over the offseason, but you think about other guys, Carson Hartzla, Gavin Hoffman, a senior who was not able to be here today because he just underwent surgery, Patty Gallagher, all these guys scheduled to be starters, earned a spot in the lineup, and not wrestling for Ohio State for the remainder of the season due to injury. Indiana's dealing with that today. There are a lot of their projected starters that are out of the lineup. That's Big Ten wrestling. That's NCAA wrestling. People are going to get hurt. And going back to the top of the broadcast as we go to the third period here, you asked what makes Ohio State tough. They have that depth. Next man up can go in and be a top D1 caliber wrestler, and not all teams have that.
This Big Ten is tough. With Indiana, they were ranked just a couple weeks ago. Maryland, Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, and Iowa and Penn State who are
now we've got Geog going underneath to start the third period, even with a commanding, well, he doesn't have a commanding lead, certainly. He's got a 1-point advantage.
So right now, Sollars on top. He doesn't want to let an escape point at all.
Well, no, he wants to run those boots, and he's got one in. He likes to run double boots and really stretch a guy out, and that's how he has racked up 11 pins on the year. And it's interesting, being a 1-point match, for the most part, Geog has dominated the offensive attempts. So he wants to try and go with a banana split there almost from top Sollars, but not able to do it.
A stalemate called in riding time now in favor of Gabe Sollars. Just 8 seconds, though, so has to be over a minute for the bonus point.
And if he rides this period out, even if he doesn't get a turn, we go to overtime.
Yeah. Geog back on the bottom.
If Geog had come into the third period with a 4-point lead or a 5-point lead, I don't know if you would see him take bottom. I tell you what, so he got out the first time, and he's almost out here. They'll continue wrestling as long as any body part is still within the circle. Starting off the whistle with a switch worked for Geog both times to get Sollars off his hips.
Now Tom Ryan trying to talk to Geog, the head coach in his 18th year with Ohio State.
Now this is going to wind up a stalemate, and that's not good for Geog.
Now for the viewers at home, why is it not good for Geog?
Well, he wants to continue the action there to get the escape. Right now he has to start again, and he's switched twice, and it's worked. One time when he was not able to hit the switch, Sollars was able to break him down and ride that out. Now under a minute to go, if Sollars is able to stop the first move and get Geog flattened out, there's a good chance he's going to be able to ride out this period. And there you see Geog spend a lot of energy in that scramble situation and did not have any kind of first move there, though he's up to a tripod position.
We're getting close to the minute mark. Now about 10 seconds left of riding time as Sollars slams Geog to the ground.
That was a Shane Sparks special right there. Oh, we're going to get an illegal hold here.
1 point for Geog.
I did not see it live with the way the wrestlers' bodies were angled. He must have, I don't know if he had a full Nelson touched up or what the penalty was there, but there isn't any. And now they're going to issue the escape because you need the takedown if you're Sollars.
So that's big time for Luke Geog.
And if Sollars can score a takedown with 5 seconds to go, he'll win the match because he'll have the takedown and riding time. Geog has not been warned for stalling, so he's going to get on roller skates here in a minute.
Sollars has to go quick if he wants to tie this up. But it's going to stay a decision win for Luke Geog at the end of this match. It was a back and forth between Gabe Sollars and Luke Geog, but the 21st ranked Buckeye comes away with a 3-0 win for the team, 9-6 in this match.
Sollars was not able to complete what he wanted to do on top, but you can see that he is very, very adept in that position. The aggression from Geog right.
Fans may describe, it's the 11th ranked redshirt freshman for Ohio State, Nick Bouzakis. He's one of the best in the country at his weight class at 133. He'll take on redshirt freshman Issac Thorton. We weren't expecting at first, but now at a 3-9 record, here he comes against such a tough opponent, Nick Bouzakis. What is so special about him? I know we talked about earlier what's special about Nick Feldman, but Ohio State continues to have these freaks.
Well, that's, he was a part of the same recruiting class as Feldman, along with Jesse Mendez. Just a tremendous group coming in here to wrestle for Ohio State. Nick Bouzakis, didn't see a lot of the lineup last year, redshirted, but you saw him in a few circumstances last year. I guess the takedown here to start off the scoring. He has a really high ceiling. And when he finds the consistency in his positioning and he finds the consistency in his technique, he's going to be, he's already tough to beat, but he is going to be next to impossible to beat if he can get consistent with the things that he does well. And he's well aware of that, and the coaching staff is well aware of that. You ask him, what's got to happen for you? I've got to do the things I do well all the time, instead of maybe having a brief mental or physical lapse in a match against high-level opponents that turns into that guy's takedown.
Nick Bouzakis coming off a 5-4 decision loss to Dylan Shawver of Rutgers, which Bouzakis fell down the rankings just a bit. 7 pins, 6 tech falls on the season for Bouzakis at a 20-7 record.
Well, and let's look at that last weekend, right? It points to exactly that. Bouzakis in the first duel of the weekend comes away with an upset victory against Penn State, against a highly ranked opponent, and then loses to an opponent ranked lower than he was. And so that's just a matter of that consistency. If he can reach that, he can wrestle with anybody.
Is that concerning for Ohio State to see a loss like that after beating a top Penn State wrestler?
No, well, you never want to see a loss, right? But I think it's a growth opportunity. And that's, you talk to this coaching staff and you talk to the Indiana, every coach worth his salt understands that a loss is an opportunity for growth. And Tom Ryan and his coaching staff are no different. And when you talk to the wrestlers in the room, they understand that as well. That's their mindset, that losses do happen. You want to avoid them whenever possible, of course. You want to go out there and you want to win and you want to dominate. But when it doesn't go your way, figure out why, and then apply that to your life and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Bouzakis, a 7-point lead. First period almost coming to an end.
He's tough on top, too. He's good on his feet, and he is just a relentless buzzsaw on the top position.
A buzzsaw who's up 7 to start the second period. Thornton, he was 130-11 in high school in the state of Kentucky, a 2021 state champion. Last loss comes to Penn State's Tech Fall in a 19-4 loss. 12-18 in his career as a Hoosier.
Well, and hopping in here for Caden Rooks, the brother of Graham Rooks, who we'll see later on in 149. And again, just one of those situations where you're deep into the season. There's a lot of bumps and bruises for guys.
Match number 4. One more before we go to intermission, which will be the 141. Should be a good one coming up. as Bouzakis continues. So Thorton right now, it's not an easy matchup, but what's the offensive strategy or defensive strategy? Because Bouzakis has plenty of takedowns and the reversal already.
Well, one of the things that when you're in a match like this, you have been hit with so many different things from so many different directions. Sometimes it's tough to settle yourself down and just concentrate on the next thing in front of you. Like right now, he's trying to fight off a bar half, and he was able to get out momentarily, but then turned into a full half Nelson. And not a full Nelson, a full half Nelson that just turned into a full fall.
Bouzakis with the pin against Issac Thorton. The crowd rises to their feet. He'll get the beanie, another tradition where he wins a match. He puts the red beanie on. Just pure dominance from the redshirt freshman.
Well, and again, you know, sixth year for Coach Escobedo. It kind of made me feel old because it doesn't seem like all that long ago that he was getting those All-American honors as a Hoosier, winning a national championship at 125 back in 2008. He certainly has this program in Indiana on an upward trajectory, and that's not easy to do in the Big Ten. Every conference dual meet, the conference tournament, you are going up against a very, very tough opponent. It's tough recruiting ground. He wants to put a fence around Indiana as best he can, but also reach out to other parts of the country. And overcoming the deficits that a program like Indiana has to recruit against Penn State, Ohio State, Iowa, those types of teams, it's an uphill climb, and I think he's on the right path to doing it.
Dylan D'Amelio, 11th in the nation as a redshirt senior, 19-8, 7 major decisions. He was an All-American last season who finished 8th overall in the country.
Yeah, and this is a guy in D'Amelio. He's all about pace. He's all about pressure and making opponents uncomfortable. That's how he wins matches. You know, is there a signature takedown? Not necessarily. Is there something an opponent particularly has to stop against D'Amelio? No. But you have to fight him for 7 minutes in order to beat him.
Graham Rooks coming off a fall win against MSU's Clayton Jones with 4:36 into the match. Two-time NCAA qualifier, 14-6 on the season. He's had his ways within the top 10 of the Big Ten championships in the last couple seasons. Last year was 5th place in the weight class. So Graham Rooks could get things started for Indiana. They're down 21-0 team score-wise. What does he need to do?
Well, he has to match the pace. He has to match the pressure, and then he has to find the opening to get past the defense of D'Amelio. There you see the half shot, not quite able to get to the legs, didn't have the right path to get there. He's got some quality ranked wins this year, Rooks. Good re-attack there from D'Amelio. Rooks trying to get it into a scramble situation with the roll-through. With D'Amelio keeping the right hand, right arm wrapped around that leg, trying to keep himself in a position to move the action to where he's got the angle. Now he does kind of have that angle getting in toward the hip. Still not really all that close to a takedown, but closing in on it. Now he gets closer with the leg elevated, and he'll score it.
There's our first points of the day, 3-0, Dylan D'Amelio. The riding time now will start. Took a little bit for these two to feel each other out.
Yeah.
And that's part of the sport, especially in the first period, you would say.
It's certain, yes, absolutely. If you don't have a handful of matches against an opponent where you can say, okay, I know his pressure, I feel where he comes with the right hand or the left hand, how he likes to switch up his stance at certain points, you have to gauge somebody, just like a boxer, finding the range on the jab. You've got to know where you are in space in relation to what your opponent likes to do. And so D'Amelio able to come up with a takedown there at the end. And Dylan D'Amelio's had a few losses recently that have been somewhat head-scratching in terms of, you know, rankings and things like that. But talking to him and talking to the coaching staff, we mentioned this before in the first half, a loss is never something you want to have, but embracing the learning opportunity and the ability to figure out what went wrong and minimize those situations in future matches, gives D'Amelio an opportunity to grow as a wrestler heading into Big Tens and Nationals.
Speaking of losses for D'Amelio, a 12-9 decision loss last week to Rutgers' Michael Cotta, who was unranked. A surprising loss for D'Amelio.
Yeah, that was one of those where you just it doesn't look good on paper. But, you know, take the time to evaluate the loss quickly and then move on to the next thing.
Rooks holding his ground as he's down 4-0. So Rooks can get a takedown. This could get interesting. Stalemate once again between these two. Rooks, he's wrestled in a lot of matches in his career as the graduate. 90-61 overall as a Hoosier. D'Amelio's a 2023 Clarion Open winner. Went 5-0 in that tournament. He's been to the NCAA's 3 years during his collegiate time as a redshirt senior.
Finally able to break through last year and get to the podium as an All-American.
Sure, D'Amelio wants a little more than just getting on the podium this upcoming season, but
oh yes,
no weight class is ever easy.
Both of these guys are in-state competitors. Rooks from Columbus, Indiana, and D'Amelio from Northwest Ohio. Wrestled at Genoa High School. I'm state champion there.
So not a ton of offense from Graham Rooks so far. He's keeping it close, just down 4-0.
Well, and his pressure there forced D'Amelio out of bounds, so D'Amelio will be warned for stalling. And that's, you know, we talked about that in the first period. Match that pressure.
Matching the pressure indeed with a 4-0 lead for Dylan D'Amelio. Third period we go. On the bottom will be Graham Rooks. So if he can get the escape and a takedown or maybe a reversal, could be good for the Hoosiers to set them up.
D'Amelio controlling that far wrist was able to keep Rooks from getting up off the mat with the palm of his hand. Keep the weight across those shoulders there. Now Rooks is able to get the hips free. Now swings the rest of them through for the escape. And as you were talking about, now you're within a takedown margin. And if you get the takedown in relatively short order, you're not going to be able to get your own riding time. But you can make sure that keep D'Amelio from getting back on top and building up his own. Almost a lapse there. If Rooks had been able to cast his hips over, he would have been in a pretty good spot to get a takedown there. But D'Amelio continuing with that sort of cartwheel got himself out of danger.
As a former wrestling coach, when you're seeing the head coaches for both sides screaming at their wrestlers, like, is a wrestler really hearing you that much and listening as, oh, what should I do in this situation?
You know what? It depends on the wrestler. I've had a lot of guys say, Coach, I can't hear a word you say. And others say, I hear everything. And you call something out that you see and you see immediate reaction and that thing works. In some cases, doesn't work, whatever the case. Depends on the crowd, how much noise is there? Is it drowning out the corner?
What exactly is a coach saying in certain situations? Like, are they yelling certain strategies, or is that more just like?
Well, and again, it's situational, right? Sometimes you're trying to tell your wrestler about the situation, remind them of it, because at this level, the wrestlers know approximately how much time is left in the match, what the score is, what the situation is. But sometimes as a coach, you want to remind them, okay, there's another stall on D'Amelio, so now a takedown will change the lead, right? So now you, as a coach, you're saying, hey, keep your back to the center. Don't back up. Don't back out.
It was a tough match, but win for D'Amelio in a 4-2 decision. Rooks, he played his butt off to keep it close, and he had the point at the end for the stall as D'Amelio will shake the hand of Angel Escobedo.